No need for everybody to panic, but apparently we have launched a nuclear missile. So I'll be bringing on Rick Rosner, see what he's got to say about this. And also, I understand that the Russians are building up forces against the European side, and not on the Ukrainian side, but on the Western European side as well. So who knows? Maybe we're heading toward a greater conflict than we thought we were, and all along those lines. I'll begin to some other news items once I can get this main computer up and running. But in the meantime, I'm going to bring Rick Rosner up, see what he's got going on the Drudge Report and other things. And if he's heard about this lovely attack and everything like that, apparently it was a non-armed nuclear missile, and I think it went to somewhere in Asia, and they brought it in from one place and then reassembled it and then launched it. But that is something that I saw in the news, and I guess it's all part of the test to go with what's going on with our getting the golden defense or the golden dome and everything like that. But definitely it does look like a nuclear missile was launched and everything like that. So I did see that. I found that quite interesting too. We're always talking about how our young people in our lives, like my nephews and others, are always concerned about their safety and all in that life and whether they will have an extended life and in that kind of way. Since some of them have lived through a pandemic, depending on when they were born, they might have lived through a pandemic, a terrorist attack, and a number of other things as well. But Rick, like I said, trying to get the main computer up and everything. But
All
what are
right,
you
so
hearing about
they're
this?
calling it a routine test. They launched it out of California, a
Right,
Minuteman III missile. This article that I'm just starting to read says that the U.S. has 400 Minuteman IIIs, each carrying only a single warhead, which is, a lot of these missiles have multiple warheads to make them harder to intercept.
right.
Uh, it's got a range of 6,000 miles. So let's I don't know if it's saber rattling or if it's probably not routine, but let's see. The missile was equipped with an unarmed, that is not nuclear, of course, Mark
Right.
21 reentry vehicle, which flew 4,200 miles to a U.S. Army ballistic missile defense test site on the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands, located in the central Pacific Ocean. The
Yeah,
article
so
continues, the test was not a response to current world events.
okay, so it wasn't a test to current world results. They were just doing a mandatory test. I did read that as well, that they do these tests on a routine and a regular way. So maybe that's a good
Well,
thing. But the
here's
other
some
thing
other
that
here's some other news. A judge has just blocked the Department of Homeland Security from stopping foreign students from registering at Harvard.
I,
The
okay,
Harvard has 7,000 out of 28 undergrad and graduate students. 28,000, 7,000 of them are from other countries. And the Christine Nome was trying to say, yeah, they can't go there. And a judge says, yeah, they can for right now. I'm sure this will move all the way up to the Supreme Court. But
well, sure. And the Supreme Court is very much in favor of Trump in a lot of ways and all along those lines. So it'll be
yeah,
interesting
but
to see how
not
this.
in shutting down a college just because they're pissy about. Well, Twitter, of course, has thousands of tweets saying it's because Barron didn't get into Harvard.
Oh, I didn't know Barron was trying to get into Harvard, but let's bring in Nick and see what Nick's got to say about all of this as well. So it looks like we launched a rocket that had non-nuclear capabilities, but it is one of our nuclear rockets, but it is only going to the Marshall Islands. And like I said, I did hear that Russia was building up their forces on the NATO side as well. So does this mean we're heading into a greater conflict? Is NATO going to get pulled into further into the Ukrainian war and everything like that? So they are building up forces on the NATO side.
I mean, maybe. I mean, see, this is also the argument for the Golden Dome. Whether the liberals want to hear it or not, they want to spend all their money on climate change and not money on defense. They want to spend it on transgender rights, not defense. Yeah, so they want to throw the money away on
That's
LGBT.
ridiculous. We spend $1 trillion a year on defense, and I'm okay with most of that.
Okay, then good. Then we should spend it where it's useful, which is actually creating a real defensive network similar to the Golden Dome. and start developing
Yeah, well,
technologies.
we spent like an hour for the past 2 days discussing why the physics of the Golden Dome make it unfeasible, at least.
They said that in the 1950s, that you couldn't get a spaceship to the moon because of the Van Allen. I mean, you know, the thing is, or you can't cure cancer. I mean, come on. Physics and science keep advancing. And so the thing is, as it keeps advancing, we can create systems, and we have the money to do it. I mean, if you look at the numbers, the total GDP of Russia our defense department dwarfs them. I mean, so the thing is, there's no way they can catch or keep up. If you really want to create a deterrent, if you really want to do that, you need to invest in getting
the Golden Dome will cost $500 billion and probably even more.
$500 billion.
So, and it's almost impossible to defend against missiles launched from nuclear subs, because they can be 50 miles off the coast. They can launch a missile that can blow up LA.
That's assuming that they can't be found. I mean, so the thing is, it just, as they say in Pawn Stars, it ain't happening. This would be an extremely big deterrent. It could actually change the whole composition of the war in Ukraine. And you people in the United States wouldn't have to run scared of China and Russia every day they wake up. Every time that Putin does the raid, he chases the saber and rattles it. We don't get rattled, because the thing is, we create a system, and yeah, it's going to take what, 500 billion? Well, if you think about it, your idiot Joe Biden wanted to spend like 2 trillion on climate change. I mean, you know, and ridiculous things that really won't make a difference. You don't
think Trump is a smart guy, right? You don't think Trump took physics classes when he was at the University of Pennsylvania, right?
Trump probably can't.
He paid a kid to take the SATs for him to get him in to college, right? Okay. So you don't think Trump understands physics?
No, he definitely doesn't understand it. But the thing is, just because he doesn't understand it doesn't mean that it's not true.
But Trump pulls stuff out. Trump says the Golden Dome will be ready in 3 years. That's the horse shit. Even if the Golden Dome is possible, 3 years is an impossible target. We don't even know what form it would take, whether it's
he's a real estate salesman. Okay, so let's just get off on that. But if you look at the presidents of the United States, weren't like the best and the brightest. But if you look at, there was this thing called the Manhattan Project. It's probably before your time, right? But there were a lot of smart guys involved in it. And what they were going to create is an atomic bomb, which has never been created before. The physics weren't there. There's no way we did it. Okay.
No, the physics was there. And it's because they realized that the physics was there.
Yeah. I'm just saying the Golden Dome concept, the concept of creating.
All right. So let's talk about the Manhattan Project. Okay. So physicists realize, Leo Szilard realizes that a bomb is possible, and goes to Einstein, because Einstein was the most famous scientist in the world, and says, we need you to write a letter to the president, FDR, to say we need this technology, because if Germany gets it first, it's a disaster for the world. That was 1939, and we barely got that bomb built by the end of the war in 1945. And a nuclear bomb is way more simple than a missile defense shield. It took 6 years. So when Trump says it'll take 3 years, he's pulling numbers out of his ass.
Well, he does that all the time. But the thing is, if you don't head toward that direction, you never get there. And right now,
all right. Here's what I'll give you. It's fine to do some research in that direction. I'm sure research in that direction was already going on, but at some point, you have to acknowledge reality. So are we going to spend $25 billion a year for the next few years, seeing if we can get something built? Well, we've been doing this kind of defense work for since there have been nukes.
As you said, 25 billion is nothing, because what is only $2.50 a person. You know, so the thing is, come on, Rick. You're talking about
25 billion is $75 a person.
$75 a person. So the thing is, what you're doing is you're doing the same thing. Hey, it's okay to spend money on Big Bird, which is worthless, NPR, worthless, and all the liberal agendas, which are worthless and people don't want. Instead, what people do want is to feel secure. And let's take a look at Israel. You're probably familiar with that. Do they have a Patriot missile system, or do they have a bunch of people standing
We
around?
talk about this every day this week.
I'm not sure if the technology would work.
Israel is defending against missiles using defense missiles that travel at 1,700 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Nuclear missiles incoming are traveling 15 times as fast as that.
Sure, but how fast does the SR-2 Blackbird go? Come on. We have different technology. And
the SR-2 Blackbird probably goes 3,000 miles an hour. A nuclear missile still re-enters at 8 times that speed, and just before it hits the ground, it splits into 6 to 10 different nuclear warheads.
Well, that means, because we do have a lot of smart people in the United States, that means what we end up doing is to make sure that we intercept those missiles before they hit the ground. And realize our opponent. We're not talking about, we've got this great opponent on the other side. You have Russia. Russia is not a great power. They do not have a lot. The only thing they did have is Sarabama. If you look at Sarabama, that was impressive when they had Sarabama. They exploded that and they showed how that worked. So if you want to see what Russia does have, go to look at Sarabama. It was pretty impressive. They've got some pretty good nukes out there.
All right, so let's go back to the Iron Dome, because I looked up stats on the Iron Dome. So the Iron Dome knocks out between 85 and 97% of incoming missiles. Some analysts have estimated the success rate to be as high as 95%. So if a missile gets through, as we've been talking about, it's a shitty little missile from Hamas land or fucking, I don't know. Anyway, if it hits, it blows up part of an apartment building, generally doesn't kill anybody. If a nuclear missile makes it to over a city, the nuclear warheads that Russia uses are anywhere from 20 to 50 times as powerful as the Hiroshima bomb. So if a missile gets through and detonates over like Long Beach, then you lose 500,000 people.
Right. And how many people died in World War II?
In the U.S., lost 410,000.
That was not my question, Counselor. My question, I'll repeat it. How many people approximately died in World War II?
50 million.
50 million. Okay. So if you lose 250,000, welcome to war. War is hell. Okay. But here's your alternative. Either you do this or you're hostage to Vladimir Putin for the rest of your life. Or you do like the liberals think they can do. They can negotiate with Vladimir Putin and the crazy Russians and the Chinese and anyone else who decides they want to create a new Kim Jong-un. So here's your choice. You have no choice. Your choice is to do what you just said. Do the Iron Dome and perhaps a granite. In other words, where you go underground.
So I agree. All right. So yeah, if we're going to spend $500 billion, then in the 50s, and I still saw these every place growing up, the basements across America were turned into fallout shelters with food available that was supposed to not go bad for years. And when we were deep in the Cold War, when there was a national crisis, we were supposed to drill and huddle under our desks. But we were supposed to go underground where possible. Right. And for the $500 billion that you'd spend on the Golden Dome, you can build a granite dome by digging. $500 billion will get you about 5,000 miles of tunnels. And these tunnels can be used for other stuff like transportation. And
these are not mutually exclusive objectives, are they? You could do both, right, Rick?
Well, then if you want to spend $1 trillion, $1 trillion a year on
a good use of federal government funds rather than spending it on, we got to do climate change. We need LGBTQ rights. We need to get foreigners involved more. No, you spend it on something that makes a difference, and that's protecting the American public. One thing I know in my short period of time where I was sat on HOA boards, the people interested in our communities more than anything was security. Okay, when a government ignores security, you're ignoring the will of the people. And right now, that's what the prior governments have done until Donald Trump showed up. And then he finally mentioned, hey, maybe we should have some security. And immediately the liberal left, because it doesn't matter what he said, he could say, whatever. Said, oh, he's wrong. Of course you're going to say he's wrong, because if he said, hey, we need to grow more trees, you would say he's wrong. I mean, so it doesn't matter what the liberal left says. We know what they're going to say. He's wrong. But in this particular instance, he's not wrong. You should actually look toward making sure that America is defended adequately, and it gives us unbelievable negotiation power. Then Trump would be right. The war in Ukraine would end tomorrow, because he said, look, either the war ends or you end. Oh, but we're going to strike back. No, you can't. And that really puts Vlad in a very tough position. Other than that, what we're doing is we're just talking smack. Okay. So,
right. But the one thing so maybe some kind of missile defense system is possible at great cost great monetary cost, and also cost to operations in space. Because if you fill the sky with a bunch of defensive tech, that makes it harder to do other things in order.
You're going to need a lot of technology, and you've got a great person who has a lot of technology to help do this. His name
Musk
is Elon
Musk is 60.
Elon Musk. He has SpaceX and the Boring Company. It works both ways.
Musk is 60% a charlatan. He buys companies, and part of the deal is they have to name him as a founder, making him look like a genius. He buys companies that were already up and running and names himself. So, whatever we do will probably make Musk richer.
Of course it will, because he owns the Boring Company, so he can actually bore the tunnel so that people can go underground in the event of a nuclear strike. And he owns SpaceX, so he can help assist to make sure that the Golden Dome gets built.
Let's talk about what's bullshit. What's bullshit is it won't be ready in 3 years. We're nowhere near right now. We have 44 defensive missiles designed to be launched against a nuclear strike to try to knock incoming nuclear weapons out of the sky. We only have 44 missiles. Each missile has a success rate established from tests we've done of 50%. So if North Korea launched a single nuclear missile, we would launch 8 of these defensive missiles at it, and we'd have a 99% chance of knocking it out. But if North Korea or Russia launched, 11 missiles, we would likely be able to knock out, 6 of them, and 5 would hit the ground or explode over cities or whatever their targets are, killing a total of about 2 million people. So,
right, and that just shows you how poor America's defense system is.
But hold on, because if we build a Golden Dome, that's for the first wave. And then an enemy sends over a bunch of nuclear missiles to blow up in the atmosphere, at the level of orbital, at the altitude of our defense system, emitting EMPs, electromagnetic pulses, that takes out the system. Then they launch a wave of ICBMs that make it to the ground.
Well, that's redundant.
Rick and Nick, just really quickly, how will this work in terms of the size? Israel is a relatively small country that has the Iron Dome and everything. I'm thinking because he is a New York real estate agent, you said that several times and everything, that of course he wanted to protect New York, DC, and he's also got interest in Florida. But he's not a big fan of Newsom and California. So is the Iron Dome actually going to go all the way from New York to California, or is it only going to protect part of the United States that he deems to be worthy of protection?
Well, the thing is, if
Not
you
gonna
do it right, it
do
will
a
cover.
patchwork. But
You can cover most of the United States, perhaps without Alaska, but no one lives in Alaska.
but here's one more thing.
Alaska, you can give
Nuclear
up.
weapons do not detonate when they hit the ground. They detonate like
Over.
the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs blew up 600 feet above ground because
No,
they
that's
could
true, but
spread their blast.
the dome can be around basically the lower 48 states, and of course Alaska and Hawaii, they can kiss it goodbye. But the thing is, this gives a lot of time, because remember where we're positioned at, where Russia's positioned at. Okay, most of the if they were to launch an attack, it would actually go over the Arctic. It would give us some time, and the thing is, the northern part would do it. Then if you look at how we're positioned, this scares the bejeebers out of your friend Vlad, is that we have NATO lined right next to Russia. No wonder why he's scared. Okay, and so the thing is, he
Maybe
has.
that's why he's building up his troops, because they said he's building up his troops in front of NATO, not in front of Ukraine. So he's building up.
I understand that, right? I understand that, Mark. But if you want to secure the U.S., you can secure the northern border and create a golden dome around the U.S. And then the thing is, so you have a defense there, and then you have your offense around Europe, because Europe borders right next to Russia. And so all the fears that Rick was saying is the fears that Russia has. They go, there's no way they can stop the United States and NATO from decimating their country within 24 hours. That is a big bargaining chip, and we can do it immediately, and they could not
Well,
retaliate.
speaking of big bargaining
Okay,
chips
right.
and
Let
everything.
me finish my point here, which is
Okay.
that you in a Golden Dome system, you don't stop missiles from reaching the ground because they blow up before they reach the ground. So, like, if Russia launched a bunch of warheads at us, if they got within a mile of the ground, they could set them off, and that would incinerate cities effectively.
Yeah, but the thing is, the operative word is if. If you have to look at it this way, we have hypersonic weapons, and we start becoming serious about that, like China is developing hypersonic missiles to intercept these. It's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for Russia to hit mainland U.S. Could they hit Europe? Yeah, unfortunately.
Russia has 1,700. U.S. and Russia each have 1,700 deployed nuclear warheads. So if each side launched only 10% of their arsenal, 170 missiles, we would and even if we had a defense system in place that somehow reached 90% success, that 17 missiles would still blow up over cities at 500,000. You still lose 8.5 million Americans in the initial blasts.
Okay.
Not to mention,
there will be no blast afterwards, because Russia will be decimated after that. But let me ask you this, okay? So
wait, Nick, I gotta stop you right
let's say it's 8 million people. I'll ask again this question: how many people died in World War II?
Nick, stop.
50 million.
I'm asking a question. Can you answer? How many people? You don't know, Toby. Well, since you missed the first part of this class, there was 50 million people who died in World War II. You think World War III is going to be less than that? Come on, Jacoby. And your liberal lefts are like, let's not do anything. Let's go beg to Putin to do something. That's not how you do it. You do it exactly the way Donald Trump is saying. You build a Golden Dome. You build your defenses. You increase your offense. You go from a position of power and strength, not wimpy weakness, and then divert all your resources to climate change. Are you serious? Yeah.
What nuclear weapons were used in World War II?
Yeah, Professor Nick.
On board.
All right, other people want to say stuff. Let's let Dr. Sharif and Jacoby in here.
Professor Nick, in World War II, I think 75 million people died. Am I right?
If you include the Pacific too, yeah. And
it's a huge number of people died in World War II. I have few more concern. Just I want to learn, because this is very good discussion. I can understand that you have lot of argument and other things. I want to know more because stock market react to proposed iPhone tariff. US stock future declines and concern over the federal defeat and pending budget bill in Congress. So President Trump proposed a 25% tariff on iPhone not manufactured in USA, causing Apple share to drop in uh, pre-market trading. While so it's a 9% increase or 18% decline after withholding full year guidance due to global trade uncertainty. What's your thought, Mr. Nick, especially when observing this iPhone market is very important in USA and Donald Trump proposing that all of the things they have to manufacturing inside US. Even Donald Trump request Apple do not produce Apple uh, computers or iPhone or anything not in India. Everything they need to produce in USA. Do you think that the corporate culture, what we see after World War II, that in Asia Pacific they produce different things and then they sell it to the US market, Europe market, it will happen or it will drastically change next 3 years? What will be the impact?
Well, if you look at what he's trying to do, he's trying to get production in the United States of America as opposed to overseas. So that's his push on bringing Apple to say, hey, come on, guys, stop taking advantage of inexpensive labor overseas. Produce your products here in the United States. Period. The end of. But let's hear what Chitobi has to say.
So just to point out, you gave a false premise talking about, hey, how many people died in World War II? So people look at that's idiotic. No nuclear weapons were used in World War II. So why didn't you bring that up? So you're starting off your premise wrong. And then on top of that, you're ignoring the fact that Rick points out, yes, nuclear weapons will get through. So it doesn't matter if there's a second hit. That means the country is already destroyed based on not only the explosions that happen of nuclear waste above us, but actually that hit the actual cities. So to even attempt the idea of justifying a golden dome or anything like that is ridiculous and idiotic at best. Number two, what Dr. Sharif was pointing out to you, and you didn't even think about, hey, we don't have the infrastructure to do any part of the iPhone. We don't have that full infrastructure. And then on top of that, when Donald Trump tried to bring Foxconn to the US back in his first year, that never happened. It was a promised deal. You know why it's not going to even happen now? And the idea of raising tariffs, which actually hurt the actual tech market, is because we don't have the infrastructure to actually do that. We don't have all the necessary pieces to do that. Even to build the actual iPhone infrastructure here would take multiple decades because we do not have the infrastructure, nor the training of the people, nor the actual setup. So actually, even to bring the actual full iPhone and stuff like that here would cost even more so that even if we had the infrastructure. So you're talking about charging people who are already upset about paying $1,000 to $2,000 for the iPhone to now pay $2,000 as a base minimum to $3,000 to $4,000 for the iPhone. Therefore, the markets are reacting to it right now. As Dr. Sharif pointed out, the pre-markets and everything dropped. Guess what's happening right now? It's already down again. So making all these complaints and trying to justify idiotic policies don't work. It don't actually even help. It doesn't help the economy, what he's doing or what he's attempting to do. But what he really might be doing is actually greasing the wheels so he can actually make more money by actually having the markets drop. And then he goes ahead and says, well, you know what? I was only kidding about that. So then they spike again. So his buddies actually make more money. So no, the infrastructure is not here. It's not going to work.
If we're going to talk about far-fetched technology, there's some technology coming within the next century that will be more effective than any kind of golden dome, and that is making people bulletproof. And the way you do that is you make consciousness downloadable, and that's on the way. And now it'll take a long time. It'll be freaking really technically hard, but you see it in science fiction now. You release a bunch of nanobots into people's brains, they map people's brains, and they replicate them. So there's a record. So if you get nuked, if you get cancer, if you get shot, if you get in a plane wreck, you get resurrected. It won't be possible for the next 50, 60 years, but 100 years from now, yeah, probably. And then if everybody's free, has their brains on file someplace, then you're immune to frickin' everything.
Well, I think you're totally correct, Rick. Most liberals do have their brains on file somewhere already, as Jacoby just pointed out, because the thing is, he's totally wrong when it comes to the United States can't manufacture Apple phones in the US. It's like we are technologically not as advanced as Bangladesh or India. He's so full of it. It is absolutely not true. Not only do we develop these things here, we can manufacture them here. The only ones who don't want them here are the liberal left because they don't want to make America great again. They want America to be subservient, broke, poor, spending all their time on gender studies and climate change. That's not the America that most MAGA people want. They want America that's strong, that actually produces
So
products.
you really see the truth. I was waiting for that.
Intellectually superior. But so please don't listen to
Do you
Jacoby.
know what the MAGA people want? The MAGA people want the fictional world that Donald Trump is pumping out. The fictional world that isn't in reality. For example, semiconductor chips. Do you know where they're coming out of? They're not coming out of the US. They actually tried to do that in the US, and they're still trying to bring those chips back. That was the Chips Act that Biden put together that you keep saying that, oh, it should be wasted. And actually the pieces that are being stripped out by what Trump is doing. But that Chips Act, they're coming from overseas because there's already production that's already set up. The chips themselves here, trying to produce them here, they're trying to ramp up production and actually trying to bring production here, but it's going to take decades to do so. So what the MAGA people want is, hey, you know what? If we just put tariffs on them, tomorrow, oh my gosh, we're going to have chips. It doesn't work that way. Then on top of that, on top of that, if you're talking about all the little pieces, this was what, when Trump's and actually when Trump started talking about China and all this stuff, other things with China, we're going to bring all this manufacturing and China just sucks and all this other stuff. When China started doing those AI things, putting out about American workers sitting in little factories that are set up to do all these particular things, that's the reality that Trump was talking about. That is not going to happen. There are not going to be people screwing in little screws into circuitry boards and just sending it on. That's not happening. That's robotics. That's AI. So this manufacturing that you're talking about isn't even coming because all these jobs are taken by robotics and AI. So therefore, you know who's going to do those jobs? Not the people that are in MAGA. They're going to sit in the house.
I asked Google AI how long
$3,000 that now, hey, guess what? It's made by a robot and made by AI. So the manufacturing,
you just supported my position.
Talk about reality and not fiction.
Entirely. In other words, the thing is, we can develop the robots here in the United States.
Oh, we can develop the robots. Yes, we can. But you know what? Even that's a fallacy. Because you're putting the education department and you're not putting any money into education. Other countries like from Bangladesh to India to China to Japan, they're pumping money into education.
You want to make Bangladesh great again?
Cut education. Right now, MAGA's biggest thing is the court case that was shot down or actually stalled at the Supreme Court at 4-4. MAGA's upset that they cannot get a church school funded publicly. That's MAGA's thing.
So I asked Google AI how long it would take to build the iPhone infrastructure in the U.S. and says likely 5 to 10 years and would result in significantly higher prices for the iPhone. So, yeah, we could do it. It will take most of a decade. iPhones will be more expensive. And will it create a ton of jobs? I don't know. But
thank you, AI, for backing what I stated and telling me
I have another point. I just want to know, because this is very good discussion, very good debate in between Jacoby and Nick. I really like this debate. So I just want to know that I saw that Columbia University cited for civil right violation. The Trump administration has determined that Columbia University violated federal civil rights law by fostering a hostile environment for the Jewish students. The university is accused of acting with the deliberate indifference toward student harassment, promoting a federal investigation and potential legal consequences. What do you think that how Trump administrations actually engaging with the Columbia University, Harvard universities, all of the things. Even they stopped the. I'm actually very much afraid that they stopped the admission of international student of Harvard University. I think yesterday or something
Yeah,
like that.
a court has
What do you
already
think?
ruled
What,
against.
what do you think? Like your community,
Hold
because
on,
like Trump want to make America great again, and Trump want to stop all of the universities, and we will go to Trump University, and we get certificate from the Trump University. They took all of our money. This is the way of great America, make America great again, or how does it work? How does
The court has
American
already
citizenry
ruled
work?
against the
Make Trump
Department of
great
Home.
again.
It took one day for a court to rule
Yeah,
against.
so Nick, you think that Trump University is the solution for this world?
No, it's not.
I want to learn. I want to learn.
Hey, Sharif, okay, 25% of Harvard University, our best university, is occupied by foreigners. What are we doing here? In other words, why is it American first? So my grandkid doesn't get in because your kids get to come in. And that's just plain wrong. MAGA got it right. Trump got it right. So they're throwing out the international students.
Nick,
Goodbye.
hold on, real quick, Nick.
See you guys later. And enjoy your life some more.
Nick, just as
Should there be some international students? Yes, maybe 3 to 5%. 25%? You cannot be serious. And when I went to Harvard years ago, just for a summer program. I went to the library. It's all occupied by Chinese. They were everywhere. They basically controlled Harvard back then. Now it's even worse. So the thing is, what they're doing is they're doing a good policy finally and bring it to the American attention.
No, it's a
Your
stupid.
American children are not going to the elite American schools. They're all occupied by foreign students.
It took 12 hours for a judge to shoot it down because it's an ill-considered policy.
No,
Let's go back to Biden.
By the Supreme Court.
Let's go back to Biden.
The lower courts are always ruled against.
Biden tried again and again to get student loan forgiveness through, and that was probably a less pulled out of his ass plan than the Trump plan, and he got shot down by the courts again and again. And this Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, who barely managed to graduate college at age 40 using internship credits. She said, I'm in Congress. You should give me college credit for being in Congress. That's how she graduated college at age. She's a dope. And she's coming up with this policy. Of course, it's not going to.
Yes.
Hey, Nick.
Check this out.
Nick, hold on a second, Nick. Hold on a second, Toby. I got a question I'm going to ask about this whole notion of. Hold on, because I want to ask this about the international students. Because I know that Rick had a student that went to this university I'm going to mention and everything. So would you have that same policy across the board? Because we are an international network, and I just learned that the international students, including a lot from the U.S., make up 47% of Oxford students. So in England, they make up 47% of the students at Oxford, which would be the equivalent
Yeah,
of Harvard.
because they know what they're doing. They take the best from around the freaking world. Now, I looked at national statistics for all colleges across the U.S. 5.6% of students are from other countries.
So just to point
Yeah.
out,
5.6 is more reasonable.
yeah.
And I actually did
Professor
go
Nick,
to Oxford.
Professor Nick,
It's not
you are
like-
talking about Professor Nick, you are talking about 25% international student. I also checked this status. I find that in 2003, 2004, international student add $43.8 billion in US economy with their tuition fees. Beside that, they buy house, they buy car. This is also economical contribution in USA. And they support over 378,000 jobs in USA. They're creating job opportunity for American people, international students. What do you think?
Yeah, but those job opportunities can be created by Americans, Sharif. I mean, that's kind
Okay.
of a malicious
Okay.
argument. You know, and what's wrong is you have a seat that us taxpayers are funding to mount several billion a year occupied by a foreign national. That is wrong. It should be occupied. If I'm going to spend my hard-earned tax dollars funding a seat, I don't want to see somebody from overseas occupy those seats.
Here's
That's
a-
wrong.
Yeah,
And now, let me go after
Nick.
Rick and his, the Trump guys
Hold on, Nick.
overruled.
Here's some
Let me tell you what happened.
statistics. All right,
Let me tell you what happened.
20%.
He got destroyed by the lower courts when he fired those two idiots at the National Labor Relations Board and that other agency. It went to the Supreme Court. They reversed the lower courts and said, yes, Donald, you do have the right to fire them, and they're gone. So just because the lower
Hold
court
on a
says,
second. Hold on a second. We do have Steve here, and I think Steve had his daughter actually go to a foreign university not that long ago and everything. So, what is your take on this? Because I think if I remember correctly,
Mark, before
didn't
you
you have
change
a
the
daughter do
subject,
some research
I
in
mean,
Japan?
it's freaking good. So, like,
Before you change the subject.
foreign students are good. 20% of new businesses in America are started by immigrants. 46% of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or their children. Immigrant entrepreneurs make up 22.6% of all entrepreneurs nationwide.
just to point out,
of course they do, Rick, because they're given the red carpet to go to Harvard. My
No,
kids
hold
and
on, Nick.
grandkids can't go
Nick.
because they're giving the red carpet to foreign
Nick, that's a lie.
And then they form
That's a lie.
companies, they do well successfully. Come on, it's because
Okay.
the American taxpayers are being failed by
No.
their government.
No.
And finally, Trump put them right and said, no,
So just
we're
to
not
point
going
out,
to
Nick, just to point out, Nick,
make
um,
America great again.
Nick, just to point out, your university,
Yes.
University of
I
Miami,
can't
your
wait till
favorite.
he joins me.
Nick,
on
hold
saying how
on. Your
great
university, Nick, your university, University of Miami, has 13.3% of international students. So you're complaining about Harvard, but you're not complaining about your own. But then on top of that, let's talk about what as Rick points out, the amount of money that the international students end up doing and providing for the economy, which is something that you're supposed to be excited about because you always talk about the economy and cutting deficits and all this other things. Do you realize these international students are also paying their way? So it's not a free ride that they're getting or anything like that. So they're actually paying their way. And then what your complaint is that these white students are not getting there from your complaint, because that is the same complaint that was utilized and why HBCUs came about and why affirmative action, all the other acceptances came about, because people were being overlooked and not actually being able to be accepted in. Also, in terms of the amount of money that comes in from these students, again, if you look at that 5.9% of all graduates or all students across the actual nation, that's more than the backwoods Virginia person who's crying about it, who's not really going to go to college, but just sit in the same coal mine as their parent and follow that pathway. But it is a great talking point because it sounds good that, oh my gosh, they're taking jobs away. They're taking classes away. It's the same complaint that has no water. The jobs that are in the fields that people say that immigrants are stealing, people are not taking. These classes that you're complaining about that, immigrants and international students are taking, the people that are making those complaints are not going. So that 5.96% across the board isn't affecting anybody.
Oh, you're so full of it. I mean, come on, Jacoby, you're so full of it. Let's look at the facts. The facts is 25% of Harvard, 30% of Columbia is occupied by foreign students. And you're saying, well, because Americans aren't good enough to get in. That is so full of it. And then the Americans don't succeed. That's so full of it. They're so anti-American. And what Trump is saying, no, those seats are going to be occupied by U.S. citizens.
Let's actually take the emotion out of it. Let's take the emotion out of it.
And so bring it back to reality, maybe 5%.
Let's take the emotion out of it.
5% international. But
let's
don't roll the red carpet out for international students.
Rick, I'm going to need your help on this.
The people out of West Virginia, of course they're not going. Because they go, I can't get into Harvard. Why can't you get into Harvard?
We got it. Oh, they're stealing the classes. But here, I've got it. I need your help with this, Rick. If you can look this up. What is the student body size of Harvard?
7,000 undergrads, 21,000 grads. They admit 1,900 a year undergrad. Of the 1,900, about 1,650 say yes to coming there. So my wife worked in college admissions for
So-
7 years, and these elite colleges, they are trying to build the right mix of students that will, A, students that'll be successful, that'll graduate, B, students that'll be successful in life and will return a bunch of money to the college later in life, because once you graduate from a place, even if you don't graduate, you're constantly getting letters begging for money from the college. So Columbia, my kid went to Columbia, and Columbia is kind of a pain in the ass school, but if you get through Columbia, you have connections that last your entire life. And that connection network for any of these elite colleges is super important for getting jobs. And all these elite colleges want to build connection networks. And I'm sure foreign students are part of that network that Harvard and Columbia think
Hold on a second.
the most benefits
No,
back.
I got you. Hold on a second. I do want to give Steve a
real quick,
chance
Mark.
to speak
Hold on.
because Steve's not spoken.
But Mark, I want to finish my point really fast on this. Now, Rick, if you said the international body at Harvard is about
18% of the undergrad admits are foreign.
So it was about 7,000 students total, right? Roughly about 7,000.
Yeah.
And so if we're saying, are there more international students than 7,000 that want to come to Harvard? Can we agree
not
that
at
they're
the
probably,
undergrad level? No.
well, I mean, in terms of individuals
from
that
around,
want to apply.
do they get more than 7,000 foreign applications? They certainly do. They probably get 20,000 foreign applications.
So then, if we're saying that Harvard is picking international students over the other students, wouldn't that mean they would have to accept those other ones?
I mean, nobody. The national status is not a factor in admissions.
And that's my point, basically, is that these international students, they've hit at roughly a cap of 7,000 people. So there are more than 7,000 that are applying to this actual college. And they're more at other colleges.
All right, so let's talk overall numbers. Harvard lets in 19,000. They get around 60,000 applications, U.S. and foreign total a year. They let in a little more than 3%. So it's not fair to anybody, because of those 60,000 applicants, probably 20,000 of them are qualified to go. They'd have no problem in attending Harvard and being successful, but only 10% of that number gets in because college admissions is such a crazy freaking. Now, U.S. colleges should do what Oxford, Cambridge do, which is you're only allowed to apply to one. Because otherwise it's already super competitive. You have to pick. Elite U.S. colleges should pool their applicants, and when you apply to all the elite colleges, and then you list them in order of preference, and then the colleges are like, they figure out how to be maybe a little more equitable in their admissions. And also these elite colleges that have billions of dollars should use those billions to expand the number of students who get in.
And that's a great idea and a great thing. And that proves my point that
we do need to get to Steve.
International overlook. They're not choosing international students over U.S. students and just blocking people out. Because if we're looking at 60,000 people and they're only grabbing 19,000, they're trying to do like everybody else. Or 1,900. They're trying to grab the best of the best.
We trying to grab the best of the best. Steve, any thoughts about what's going on in the news? You've joined us, and we don't always join us, so just want to give you a chance to.
Well, yeah, it's kind of on a sabbatical this year, campaigning. But hope we'll be back in 6 months for good. And I will like to start opening up the shows as well, but trying to balance everything. But I think I guess there's a lot going on in the news. I mean, there's still lots of talk about the Trump tariffs, the economy, the Israeli embassy, staff members being killed. That was very tragic. And But I think a lot of what I was going to say has already been said, and I've written extensively on this issue. I do believe that a healthy, streamlined immigration system that's encouraging the best and brightest from around the world to come here and innovate and bring their great ideas is great for the U.S. economy. We often forget that some of the greatest companies in the world, including Google, Yahoo, even Elon Musk himself, these were immigrants that came from another nation and brought their great ideas. This whole notion that our country is started by people that were here, 44% of the Fortune 500 were founded by immigrants or the children of immigrants, even Best Buy and Nordstrom's. So Colgate, I mean, you could go on and on. So this idea that we're going to get away, you want international students here. Now, I do think that there needs to be a balance, and we need to make sure that we are training and educating people that pay the taxes, that go to the schools here to fill these open jobs that exist. But the fact of the matter is, I'm in the tech industry. For every tech job that you have opened, you have about a tech job, you have about 8 openings. So we're just not producing enough engineers and scientists and folks to fill not only the jobs of today, but the jobs of tomorrow. So I think it really is, there is an argument now, I'll agree with Nick that we don't want, people coming in that aren't complying with the laws or illegal immigrants taking away jobs that aren't here legally. But the fact of the matter is, I think that that's what is the secret sauce of America. I mean, I just got back from Japan, and the thing that we noticed, and my son and I noticed, that everyone looks the same. Not as many people there traveling from around the world. And when you have a country like that, you stifle, you stagnate. I think that's really what's made America thrive is, an immigration policy. So, I mean, if you accelerated the path to immigration today for just Indian Americans in North Carolina, the data from the New American Economy just 2 years ago said you would bring in about $750 million to our economy just by accelerating their path to citizenship so they can, be citizens. Now, they're all paying taxes too. So we often forget that the tax revenue they're bringing in because they are employed and they came here legally. So, I think we should stamp a visa on their your passport, or to stamp a visa if they start a company and they're creating jobs, because we don't want those jobs going to Canada. We don't want those jobs going to Israel. We don't want those jobs going to another country. We want those jobs right here. So that's how I close out on this argument, is that I think it's a very, kind of American centrist view that, every, founder of a company is, the Native Americans that were here, the people that have been here the whole time, keep the foreigners out. I mean, I think that'd be a train wreck for our economy. But, obviously President Trump, I don't think President Trump's against legal immigration. I think he would agree with a lot of things that I'm saying, to be honest with you, being a businessman himself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything. Hey, Nick, just really quickly, hold on a second, Rick. Just really quickly, Nick, on the other show that I do, the online dinner party, I had somebody that was in your category, but from a different standpoint, because I know the other thing you always talk about is being a role. And this young lady is a author and filmmaker, and she found out that she's a role in Nigeria. So she is a Nigerian role. So you can go check that out, because she's like you. She discovered her royal heritage and everything like that. So she is now known as Her Royal Highness Chastity and everything. But she is a filmmaker who did a film called Breathe. And she's also very much involved in an issue that Kim talks about, which is sex trafficking and all along those lines. So she's anti the whole sex trafficking and everything like that. And speaking of Donald Trump, he got in trouble because apparently Trump Towers is the popular place for Diddy. That's what came out in the latest Diddy trial and everything like that. So they did say the Trump Towers is where he was hanging out quite often and all along those lines. So I just wanted to bring that up really quickly and everything. But last thing, then I've got to turn it over to my other panelists and everything. But I got to tease you, because you always bring up education and you keep knocking Big Bird and everything like that. But there are a lot of people, including people from West Virginia, that's where they got their education, was off of PBS and off of some of the PBS programming, whether it was Big Bird, whether it was Conjunction Junction, What's Your Function, or whether it's What's a Bill, or a number of other things, that they would not have gotten that education if it had not been for PBS programming and all along those lines. And I think that Jovi would agree with me on that.
All right. So entrepreneurs, want to come to America, get educated, and then hook up with our big, tall, hot American women. The richest guy, or the second richest guy in the world, Jeff Bezos, is now with Los Angeles's greatest weather girl in history, Lauren Sanchez. You look at Miranda Kerr, Victoria's Secret supermodel. That's the dream of smart, nerdy guys around the world, is to come to America and get a 6-foot girlfriend. And we should encourage that.
Like I said, I don't have any problem occupying a seat in a private university that doesn't suck out government funds. Unfortunately, Harvard and Columbia are not two of them. They suck government funds. If they suck government
Yeah, they
funds,
do. And what you get for your funds is research. But the atomic bomb, you talked about the atomic bomb.
I don't need their research, and I don't need Sergey Brin, and I don't need Elon Musk. What has Sergey Brin and Elon Musk contributed back? Zero. But when you look at a homegrown person like Bill Gates, he's created a foundation. He's sending the money back, but he's homegrown. Sergey Brin and Elon Musk are not role models. They're typical foreigners who come in, they steal from America, stuff their pockets, and they don't give a rat's rear about the rest of us.
Yeah,
So
but when you
liberals wake up,
university,
you'll side with me. Do not fund their education.
the first atomic chain reaction was built at the University of Chicago with federal funds.
Rick, you're right. Everything. I mean, we have to stop the ridiculousness and the MAGA talking points that, hey, we can't fund. No, all research is actually federally funded. Cancer research was federally funded, and that was done in schools, if I remember, Rick. There's cancer research going on right now, going on in schools, if I remember, places like Harvard. Child cancer research, places like Harvard and other places. So all these these endowments and stuff like that people are getting from talking about sucking the government, that's not true. It's going to research and helping stuff like that. That's roughly about 80% is actually going to research and funding at Harvard. So the complaint there is just bogus. It's just built on the idea and using fear with all those talking points. And for Steve, I have to push back on the whole illegal immigration, that Trump would be against it. The problem is that Trump goes with whatever he's paid to go with. As much as people want to say that he's not bribed, the man was against EVs. Then Elon Musk gave him money. He came out at his next campaign and said he loves EVs. He hated Bitcoin. The Bitcoin bros started giving him money. He turned around and said Bitcoin was great. So he's a very transactional person. So he's against illegal immigration and all this other stuff for various reasons, especially the people that are around him. And that's what tells him what to say. RFK got him hooked on now pushing out anti-vax debunked conspiracy theories. The white genocide that he went and said that white people were being killed in South Africa, that he ambushed the actual president of South Africa with, which actually the video itself didn't even show grave sites of white farmers in South Africa. But Trump pushed it because, hey, Elon told him about it, and his other individuals who hate brown people and that are pushing apartheid in South Africa gave him money and pushed him for it. That's why the dinner that he had was even worse, because it was people paying into his Bitcoin or buying his Bitcoin, giving him money, not the country, him money. They have ideas, and they were sitting with him, many of them foreign entities, some even from China, that were supposed to be against so badly. He had dinner with all these people last night.
Have a great weekend, everyone, and I'll talk to you on Monday, Memorial Day, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
I may be out that day, but thank you all. Be safe.
No
All right,
problem.
see, let me throw numbers at you. So Nick likes to complain. I'm sure if he had a chance, he'd complain about, PhD students getting, doctorates in like women's studies or something. But most of the 42% of the doctorates granted or people are working towards at U.S. colleges are STEM. At Harvard, it's 54%. At Stanford, it's more than half. At Yale, it's 37%. A significant chunk, right around half of all PhDs at America's, highest rated universities are for science research, which is what we need to dominate technologically. It's why we've been able to dominate, why we dominated since World War II, is because we spent the money, we did the work, we encouraged the research.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. And on that note, we're going to wrap up. We're going to bring up a rerun of Ukraine, Russia, China, since definitely Asha is out of town. So we're going to run one from the past.
See you Monday. Thank you.
Monday. Yep.